All right, folks, you are listening to the Shai Fleischer Show, and we are live here from Judea, broadcasting to the world. You're part of it wherever you are. Shalom and welcome to the show. And usually we focus on issues that are happening in Israel, and this show is about Israel. At the same time, Israel is also the Jewish people. And when the Jewish people are hurting somewhere, that's a message for all of us, and that's certainly a message for Jews here in Israel to care about our brothers and sisters around the world, and so too for disasters and challenges that hit other people, if they're non-Jews as well. That's part of our story. But this case brought it all together, and that's the story of Surfside, the Surfside disaster. And I had just been really right there. If you remember the tefillin saga, that when I lost my tefillin, so when we flew in to Miami, we went right to a synagogue. We went to Bal Harbour. In Bal Harbour, there's this famous synagogue called the Shul, and there I borrowed a pair of tefillin. I prayed the morning prayer, and there I met the mayor of the town, Mayor Gabe Groisman, who is a young lawyer, a pro-Israel activist, and also the mayor of Bal Harbour. And we talked for a long time. We hung out. Little did I know that just about a month later, there would be such a tragedy in the nearby town, the next door town of Surfside. And it happened to be that Mayor Gabe Groisman, who I met at Bal Harbour, actually used to live in that very building that had collapsed. So this stuff's something that's important to us, and I am happy to bring in the mayor of Bal Harbour, Gabe Groisman. Gabe, hello, shalom, and welcome. Hold on one second. Let me make sure to get us both in here. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And I know this has been a very close story for you. So tell me about how it's been for you. Tell me about, right from the beginning, what it felt like to hear this news.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Shai. It's been a tremendously difficult week and a half for our entire community. And the difficulties pale in comparison to what the families are feeling of those in the building. A week or 2 weeks ago on Thursday or Wednesday night at 2 a.m, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. I got 3 or 4 phone calls from a friend of mine that woke me up, sent him a text message back with a question mark on it, not understanding why he's calling me at this hour. And it says in all caps, he wrote Champlain Towers collapsed. Call me, call me, call me. So I call my friend. I won't say his name, but he's actually an American Israeli who served in the IDF for many, many years in a top undercover unit. And he called me. I called him, and he was frantic on the phone that his mother is in the building and the building collapsed. So I jumped in my car. I drove over there. It's maybe a 3-minute drive. And thank God for him and his mother. He was able to get his mother out. His mother was in one of the apartments that was actually sheared in half. Where her bedroom was intact, but the rest of the apartment had fallen. And just upon arriving at the scene, it was surreal, is the word to say, because half of this building was just gone. And it's a building that stood there, I think it's since 1981. It's a building I'm very familiar with. Like you said, I live there, and it was already a chaotic moment from the beginning, and it hasn't gotten any easier.
Yeah, I was reading about the Time magazine actually had a very well-written article about the Surfside disaster. And one of the things that they talked about was a lady, her name was Hedaya, and you could see her apartment, and her best friend can see half of her apartment there. And she even has the suitcase of her recent trip to Las Vegas, but she's missing. Okay, she was on the wrong side of the apartment when the collapse happened, and she has not been found yet. Tell us a little bit about like the search and rescue and the whole thing. And this show is from Israel, so the Jewish aspect is also important to us. Can you explain to us like how the Jewish community got around this issue?
Yeah. So first of all, Bal Harbour, Surfside are 2 cities that are one right next to the other, very small. And we do a lot of things together. And there's a very strong Jewish presence there. You were there. Actually, the Shul of Bal Harbour, where you were, is actually now on the Surfside side of the border between the cities. So it's really one community. And There were many Jewish families who lived in that building for a very long time. Of course, out of the families that were missing, I believe the last count was about 30. 30 of the individuals who were missing are Jewish, and the remaining between 60 and 100 individuals. The number keeps fluctuating. They're trying to pinpoint who was actually in the building. They weren't, but it's still a significant presence in the United States to have a building where that's 25-30% of the building is Jewish. So the Jewish community is very active in this area, and we mobilized immediately. I mean, everything from Cadena, which is a search and rescue NGO from Mexico. Their local group was there that day. Their search and rescue team was there the following day. The shul of Bal Harbour, where you were, the shul had looked like to use an American reference, a Bed Bath and Beyond. There was sheets and pillows and clothing and shampoos and toiletries, all brand new for the families. And to be clear, the Jewish community mobilized for everybody, not just for the Jewish families that were in the building. And we worked with local churches also as well. But it really is a Jewish neighborhood, and the Jewish community really has shined. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the international community has been surprised, blown away by the response from our community. That's one thing that hasn't surprised me. There's been a lot of surprises and a lot of unexpected events, but the response of the Jewish community is not one of them. We have a very strong community, and this is how we respond.
Yeah, there was definitely a sense of getting together, and since I had been there, I knew what kind of folks you guys are, and how I would have guessed you would have responded. It was, I've seen these kind of wreckages, and a lot of times there's this like sense that there's like pockets of air and trapped debris. Here, at least from the visuals that I saw, it looked bad from the get-go, in the sense that it looked like it really crumbled the building into like something like September 11th type thing. Like it really went down. So explain to us what the images were, how it looked like from on the ground, and what was the sense of hope, or is there any sense of hope left? Or is that already just kind of wishful thinking, and we're beyond that point?
To answer your last question, both. Yes, there's hope. The families, if you speak to anyone of the families, they still have hope. They know what the situation is. They're not blind to the realities, but you see that human nature requires you seemingly to keep hope as long as possible. So you see that. To go back to your first question, I visited the site every day for the first 10 days. 2 or 3 times a day, mostly gathering information for the families. People asking me to take photographs of certain areas of the wreckage to see if they can see anything. Of course, you couldn't see anything, but it did bring some sense of, I don't know if comfort's the word, but comfort to the families. And the wreckage was very difficult from the beginning, like you say. People call it a pancake collapse, but if you see it from the east side, you will see just entire floors piled up one on top of the other. Almost intact in a sense. So you couldn't really just move that. It was very hard to get to any pockets. It was exacerbated by the fact that the rubble was the part of the building that was still up was leaning on the rubble. And you could see the building actually leaning back towards the rubble. So you couldn't even get to the area where they thought there might be pockets. On top of that, a fire broke out for about 2.5 to 3 days inside the rubble. And it was hard to contain, and so that made it even more difficult. And we had terrible weather, so it really was one bad moment after the other.
That's really painful. And it's like insult to injury, right? It's like raining on top of the bodies that you're trying to recover, and the live people that you're trying to recover. That's really rough. The Israelis flew in. Tell me a little bit about that. Was that helpful at all, or was that too little, too late? What was that like?
Well, I can say that the driving force behind getting the Israelis, the IDF, to come from Home Front Command to assist on the site was actually the families themselves. The families were asking for the IDF to come, and people heard their calls in the community, and many people reached out. And like always, Israel offered their support, like they do for nations all over the world. So it wasn't surprising that they offered it. People say it took a while, but I think it was 3 days in, and they were there on the pile, coming from across the world. So it's pretty quick, and they were very welcome. Go ahead.
Right. I was guessing that the reason it took a while is just because, Florida is not a third world country. They have some of the best search and rescue folks in the world, both in the state of Florida and the United States. So I was just guessing they don't need them as much as some other places.
That's true.
I felt like it was like more moral support than technical support.
Yeah, so the first part is definitely true. The state of Florida has one of the best urban search and rescue teams in the world. It's 9 teams from around the state who are trained specifically to do this. They travel to all of the same disaster areas around the world that Israel is sent to. And the first team that was there was the Miami team, obviously from the county, since they were the local team. But throughout, those teams rotated from around the state and now from around the country. So now we have people from all over the country assisting on the site. So yeah, absolutely, it wasn't that an issue of manpower or even know-how. That this is the United States, respectfully to Israel that we all love so much, but we do have the manpower and the knowledge on how to deal with these things. But a few things: one, the families asked for it, and there was a sense of giving comfort to the families, and two, there was a recognition that Israel could bring some different perspectives that could be helpful to a very difficult site. And that's really who Israel brought. I think I was texting with some people in Israel today, the folks that came, Lieutenant Colonel Vach and Edry, Commander Edry, these guys are superstars. And just really, they should make all of the Jewish people proud. If there was a camera on following them of what they do, the Jews around the world and within and outside the state of Israel would all be beaming with pride on the spectacular job they've done. And like you said, it wasn't manpower that they brought. They brought engineers and they brought know-how. They focused on intelligence, speaking to the families and trying to understand where people slept, what stuff they had around them, what kind of mattresses they slept on, what kind of covers they had on. And then they went to the site and marked the site. So that way they can help direct a little bit as to where, maybe not just searching for pockets and for hits with the dogs, which is what the American team was doing, but also showing here's where they may be likely. So they did that a lot, which really, it helped do one thing, which is get the families involved in the search. And two, helped direct the search a little bit, or at least contribute to directing the search.
That's really interesting. And there's a lot of like smarts behind this kind of operation. And I read also that they sent in 2 different kinds of dogs. One is a type of dog that smells people's living breath, and that's like the hopeful dog. And then there's also a dog that smells cadavers and can identify that. So like I realized that there was a lot of stuff thought out there. Mayor Gabe Groisman, with your permission, there's a lot of people that are sending comments. And let's read through some of the comments. I put them up on the screen here. One of my producers, Lou Weiss, says, "We send our condolences for this terrible tragedy." And Judy says, "So proud to have Jewish mayor of Bal Harbour. Decades ago, Jews were not allowed to live there." So is that true? Is that right?
That's true. There's the kiva. And yes, until the early 80s, Jews weren't allowed to even own homes in Bal Harbour. But now we have a very strong Jewish community. Has been very involved in many different Jewish causes for the last several years.
All right. Audrey says, "Shalom, we are praying for you." And other people are saying shalom. Interestingly enough, one person says a disagreement. "I disagree that Florida has the best search and rescue. This is something not seen before in Florida." So he's saying this kind of situation is a rarity in Florida, this building collapse. All right.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
It's a misunderstanding of what assets we have on the ground in the state, because these guys train to go help in disasters like this all over the country and all over the world. So that's what they do, and they are the best. And if you see them working, you would know that. Just yesterday there was a tropical storm there last night that went through South Florida, and these guys didn't even stop working. I mean, it's the caliber of people we have.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, I'm me. My show is about Israel. I'm a big Zionist. I'm very proud of our country.
Me too.
But yeah, right, exactly. But I don't want us to sometimes get over haughty. Truth of the matter is that when it comes to a lot of these technical things, the Americans are some of the best in the world. When it comes to shooting, when it comes to flying, when it comes to search and rescue, all kinds of mechanics and technical things. Like don't like Israel knows a lot of stuff, but also there's a lot of stuff to learn from Americans. And I said that once to one of the pilots that came in, an American pilot that came into Israel. I told him, you have a lot to teach us as well. And he basically said to me, that's right. And
we can learn how they accepted help from a foreign team graciously and work together with them. You see the Israelis aren't off to a side. Every image you see of the search, on every line you see a yellow helmet, which is an Israeli, and there were only a dozen of them or so on the site, but they were everywhere on every pile working together with the team, and that in and of itself is an asset.
That's amazing. And in fact, Ray says the Israelis landed and went right to work. No rest after the flight. God bless Israel, the best. Speaking of the best, one of the best governors in the United States is Governor DeSantis, an amazing person. I myself, when he was in Congress, had a chance to meet with him and started giving him a talk about Hebron, and then he soon cut me off and gave me the rest of the speech, just only better than I would have said it. He's one of the smartest people that I've met in Congress, and now he's the governor. Tell me about his involvement in all this, and also on the side of the Israeli team. Was he involved in bringing them over?
Yeah, he was involved in bringing them over. I know because I was part of some of those discussions. But DeSantis has been amazing. The governor's been amazing, and I say that because he's been here in South Florida every single day. If he has to fly out, he flies out and flies back the same day. He spends time with the families. He's actually gone to the synagogues. He goes when there's no cameras on Shabbat and still goes and prays with people. He meets with families in the hotels where no press is allowed, and it's day in and day out. And from the political side, everybody speaks about the divisiveness of American politics, but where sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due. We have a Democratic county mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, and a Republican, very well-known Republican governor who's outspoken, working together side by side every single day, sitting at the same conference room table, working constructively together, positively together. And really, it's not easy in the bureaucracy of the U.S. In Israel, you don't have this. You have everything is run by the federal government there. Here we have federal, state, local. And if they don't get along in the proper ways, then the people suffer. And I think they both recognize that, or I know they both recognize that. So they've worked together every day in a really, really tremendous capacity.
I just want you to know, Mayor Gabe Groisman, that right now in Gush Etzion, in Efrat, there are hundreds of volunteers, first responders, United Hatzalah, Israel Police, and IDF are searching for a missing young man. His name is Nir El Yadin. With drones, and it's nighttime here. They're doing it on foot. Both the township of Efrat and the mayor, Oded Ravivi, were on site as well. So, I saw our folks operating tonight, doing a search and rescue, not of a pile, but looking for a young man who's about 25 years old and is missing. And so, I saw also our township in action and trying to deal with the situation. So I got an appreciation for how big the task must have been in Florida. Mayor Groisman, let me ask you just this. Any takeaways in terms of spirituality, morality, life lessons that you've gained from this Surfside experience, this disaster?
Well, first, let me just address your last comment. I hope that and pray that the IDF and the teams that are searching for this guy find him alive and well and soon. Mayor Ravivi is a friend, and I know he does a great job in everything he does, and they're going to do everything they can to find him. So, with regards to understanding the spiritual aspect, religious aspect of what occurred, it's very difficult. I mean, many people are talking about the fact that over the weekend there was if you do the Daf Yomi, I don't, so I'm not pretending I do. I listened to a podcast, Daf Yomi podcast, which I haven't heard the last couple of weeks, but there was the Daf, I think on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, was about a building collapse, which is really, I don't even know what to do with that from trying to understand that and digest what it means. And I think once everybody's pulled out of that rubble, alive or otherwise, we'll have an opportunity to reflect. But really, right now, it's very hard to try to find any silver lining. Even everyone saying, "Well, your community is fantastic." Okay, we knew that, and we didn't need 100 people or so or more to die to learn that. So it's very hard to understand that. I'm sure, like everything else, we'll find it. We'll find a way. But right now, we're spending our days with the grieving families and learning that a lot of the Jewish laws that we have with regards to dealing with these issues, we're seeing them in action and seeing how difficult it is to even keep to our religion and our laws and our traditions in dealing with death and those issues. That's what's before us now. At some point, we'll get to reflect, and God willing, we'll find something from it.
Amen. We should have nechama, consolation, and yeah, like what do you wish for? You pray for people to even find their loved ones so they could bring them to burial. My 9-year-old was talking to me about that today, like, because we were talking about this young man who's missing. So he's like, well, what happens when you can't bury somebody? What does the family do? He was really thinking this out for the first time as a 9-year-old. And that's the harsh stuff of life. And we want to wish all of the families their consolation and bracha and closure, and that they should know no more pain of this sort. And have Jews and non-Jews we'll find some kind of consolation and blessing through this thing. Mayor Gabe Groisman, thank you so much for being with us, and we wish you continued success for your beautiful towns, your beautiful 2 towns there, and continue to be strong.
Thank you, Rabbi. One thing I wanted to say, since your show's in Israel, that I want everyone to know that we do, and I did receive and are grateful for all the support that we've gotten from Israel, from individuals in Israel, from friends, from organizations. We had Mayor Israel Gantz went to Shiloh and took a group of school kids and did a prayer for us. And we see it, we feel it, and we're thankful for it, and we're stronger because of it. So thank you so much.
That's a good thing that you told me that. That's a good way to think about it, and Chevron will start to think more like that as well. Just one last thing here, actually, before we go. Cadet, who is that? Cadell, or is it Cadet? I can't see that. Cade 175 says, one positive thing about this is local building departments making stricter regulations. Is there any sense of do you have a sense of what this caused this thing, this collapse? Is there any sense of that? Or is there any sense about how to avoid the next collapse, God forbid?
So it's hard to know what caused it. We know it's got to be structural, but we don't really know yet if it was design or if it was upkeep or maintenance. So we'll find that out soon. But in the meantime, yes, there's not only are there task force at every level of government right now looking at how we can make the building code stricter, but even at the city level, we've begun to assess and inspect all of our buildings in Bal Harbour. We've been requiring every building that's close to 40 years old to give us a recertification. If they're late on it, they have notices already. So we've learned, even without the incomplete information we have right now, we've learned that we can't be loose at all when it comes to building code or structure. And we never thought that a building could fall for any of these things, as silly as that sounds, but it's never happened before. So now we know that no corner can be cut and no expense can be spared. You have to keep your building up to code.
Very good. Mayor Gabe Groisman, thank you so much for being with us, and continued success and health and strength for your community. And we hope to see you here in Israel soon. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks. That was Mayor Gabe Groisman. He's from Bal Harbour, next door community to Surfside, giving us a report about that community, that tragedy. And it also adds up to other tragedies, I think, that we've seen in the Jewish world. If it was the horrific trampling that happened in Meron, if it was the gondola in Italy, if it was the collapse of the bleachers in Givat Ze'ev, and other things that have happened, and together it adds up to something that I'm not going to say what it adds up to. I know what it says to me. It says to me that Hashem is turning to us, and He says to us, fix something, change your ways. I'm not saying it's one-to-one. I'm saying this is an invitation, as Rav Mike would say. It's an invitation. It's an opportunity to turn to Hashem and to reach out to Him and say to Him, Hashem, give us a direction, give us a way. And may the people that have fallen be, as we say, melitz yashar, which means they should be advocates for us in the next world, in heaven, Bezrat Hashem. It is It's not a simple thing to deal with these kind of things, but also let's use it as a fulcrum to get us up to a higher level and to live the life that those people lost, and to make the most of it, the best of it, and to be the best servants of God and the best people of our time that we can be. I want to thank everybody for being with me here today. Please write me an email, yishai@yishaifleischer.com, if you have any more thoughts on this. I want to thank Moshe Herman, Yocheved Seidman, Ben Bresky, and Lou for getting this show out to the world. And we'll be back even maybe tonight, and if not later on the Yishai Fleischer podcast with Malka Fleischer and with other interviews of the important things of the week. God bless you. Be strong. Be blessed wherever you are. Shalom from Yehuda, from Judea and Israel.